Alan Isakov. Who is shuffling cards?
Me.
Okay.
All done. Shuffle done. Nose up.
Pizza rolls are a dangerous snack.
They really are. I bought a thing of 40 pizza rolls yesterday, and I was anticipating that lasting me 4 days. But then you know how it is with pizza rolls, is that first you make 7, then you make 10, then you make 6 more, and then you're like, all right, this is gonna be it. And then suddenly you don't have a bag of pizza rolls anymore.
All right, welcome to Snack Chat, everybody.
That has to be the lead-in. Please leave that as our lead-in. You know how it is with pizza rolls. You make 7, you make 10, and you don't have any left. It describes so many things so well, so eloquently.
Josh, who is that striking gentleman behind you there on the wall?
I do not know. This is another team's project room. I'm not even supposed to be in here, but they all took the day off, so I'm squatting.
So suck it. Yeah.
Yep. So you people not here, suck it.
Yeah.
Sit in your room and take off my shoes. Hey, did anybody watch any soccer? Like all day for the past 2 weeks?
It's been really nice. Pete set me up with a Watch ESPN account. I've been watching all the soccer games that I don't go to bars for.
It's awesome. You're like a postmodern cable splicer. I don't know if you kids know about that. And you like get a cable. The people used to like get cable and like splice into other people's cable feeds. So you'd go to New York and there'd be like one guy with a cable account, but everybody would have cable because it would.
I'm not ashamed to admit that I stole cable back in the pre-digital days.
Yeah. Nor should you be, because those people are assholes. So.
We had a cable box on the outside of an apartment unit, and it was simply as easy as like just moving the wire. Like it wasn't even splicing; it was just on or off. Like disconnect this copper piece to unit number 6, and there was just a big lock on it. And one day, just completely randomly, my roommate came home with bolt cutters and was like, "Hey, you want free cable?" And I was like, "Sure do."
Yeah, the answer to do you want free cable, it's never no. There's just no circumstance in which it's like, nah, I really prefer paying $75 a month for this.
Well, Ian, I'm glad the Watch ESPN is working out for you, because I can say that I have watched an outrageous amount of soccer while at work thanks to that app.
Yeah. Oh my God. The productivity in my office is low. My personal productivity is probably at an all-time low. I'm probably getting more work done when I'm asleep, and it's unfortunate, but worth it.
I feel like I'm living in this like just soccer nirvana, because I'm watching every single World Cup game. I've got Open Cup games going on. The league comes back tonight. I mean, it's just like it's a great time to be a fan.
Can we talk about how while the Open Cup is cool this year, because for the first time we beat the first team Galaxy instead of the third team Galaxy?
Or the second team Galaxy, or the Bruce Arenalist Galaxy.
Right.
I like that. You know that he used to just not even show up for that game. He would just like send a youth team out. And he's like, we're not even flying out there.
So he showed up. He showed up in 2012, because I remember, because he was right there, and then he didn't show up in 2013. But he showed up this year with Landon Donovan and Robbie Keane, and it didn't matter because we beat them anyway. So they can all suck it.
Not having seen that game, can you talk a little bit about? I mean, it was a 1-0, so it looked like the scoreline of a lucky goal and then 10 men behind the ball kind of scenario. Is that what happened?
Totally is exactly what happened.
Okay. Get the goal, turtle up. We're out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I have to say before Ian goes, because I want to hear what he has to say since he is obviously the fan. As a neutral fan, the end of that game fit in perfectly in the halftime between Portland and Kansas City. That's when I switched, was when that went to half. And from a neutral perspective, while yes, they may have been turtling, it was some fine turtling. That keeper stood on his head.
That's his third ever professional start, by the way. He's a rookie out of UNC.
Jesus Christ!
Wow.
Yeah.
His reaction saves were nuts.
And the scorer of the winner is also a rookie, Daniel Jackson.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was crazy. And another big storyline from that game that is probably more important to NASL and not MLS circles is that Nick Zimmerman, one of our best players a couple years ago, actually came back to play his first game in like 18 months. And also, Landon Donovan kind of looked like shit.
That's the word on the street.
It's okay. He didn't play super bad. He didn't play as bad as the Railhawks commentators were saying, but he just, he looked like he was loafing it around a small field in Cary around 3,000 in front of 3,000 people. Instead, these things happen, I guess.
Instead of his first competitive match since being snubbed on the World Cup, is that what you're saying?
Right. It's not his first.
That's true. He still had league games.
Yeah, he played against Philly.
In which he actually played fairly well for the most part.
All right, let me edit myself. His first competitive match since he had to go on national television and talk about the team that he's not playing for.
Oh my God, how awkward is that? Looking at him,
It's so awkward.
They're like, what did you think, Landon? Well, soccer's a weird game. Like the look out of his eyes is just like, why are you stabbing me in the heart again and again?
It's that like soldier, like 1,000-yard stare, like. That, like, I've seen some shit, man.
My non-soccer fan who I took to the game on Sunday asked me, why is there a robot commenting on the games? And I'm like, dude, that's the best player in American soccer history. And he's like, are you sure he's not a robot? And I'm like, I guess I'm not. I can't be sure that he's not a robot.
Yeah, you haven't proved that to yourself. It's true. All along, he could have been one of those, like, rejiggered animatronic bears from Chuck E. Cheese, and they just turned him into...
I honestly don't know how Landon's answer to everything is not because I'm not there. Like, Landon, what happened at the end of that game? How was it that Portugal evened it up? Well, if I'd been there, things might have been different.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
I'm not saying it's correct. I'm just saying, how does he not just, like, come across even more... Like, he seems more, like, dead inside than angry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that. Good job, Ian. Good impression.
Which segue leads to why he's playing like shit and not on fire scoring 80 goals a game. Like, I don't get the feeling that he's pissed off and going to show the world something. I get the feeling like he's ready for another trip to Cambodia.
Or just being done with soccer. Yeah, I don't know. It's something was off with that attack last night, and I think it might have been a lot of luck because Keane certainly had his chances, and there were 2 or 3 that I've seen him put away regularly in MLS that just didn't happen. And Donovan helped create some of those chances. So, like, had that happened and LA had won 2-0 or 4-0, like I thought was going to happen, then maybe it's a different story. But I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with Landon Donovan.
Yeah.
I don't think anything's wrong with Landon Donovan. Maybe he's just old.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a reason that Klinsmann didn't put him on the team, and I can see after watching yesterday's game, I was like, so that's why Klinsmann didn't pick Landon. Okay.
Yeah, I mean he's not that old, and he shouldn't be that jaded. Yes, I know that he's played a like 11 years. It doesn't seem to be slowing him down excessively. So I don't know. I mean, I think with him, with Lyndon, it's probably more just that he seems and has said on multiple occasions that he's just kind of out of love with the game. So where that leaves him, for finishing out the season and what that means for him next year, I don't know. But
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have much to say about him. He's
He's a guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was a guy who was not playing soccer particularly well. A man not playing particularly well amongst a group of 11 men also not playing particularly well.
Well, the Galaxy will come back, and
Yeah.
I think it's funny that we shut out the Galaxy like I don't know 2 or 3 weeks after giving up 6 goals in Edmonton
Mm.
against yeah.
I mean, not doing well in the U.S. Open Cup has never slowed the Galaxy down from doing pretty well in the league before. So, it's very pointedly a competition that Bruce Arena and most of the team do not really care that much about. So I don't think that this is going to be something that's going to derail their season. Unlike, say, Portland, who I bet if they lose in the Open Cup, it's going to freak everybody out. They're just starting to look good, but you can tell that Merritt and everybody is making such a big deal about the Open Cup that if they do slip up at some point, that's probably going to make the wheels come off of the bus just when it's starting to get going.
Well, y'all are in the quarters now against.
It's true against Seattle.
Yeah.
Against Seattle, which unfortunately is going to be played at, I think, the smallest stadium in the greater Seattle area. Kind of unfortunate for the number of people who want to get into this thing. It's going to feel like a lottery.
Yeah, Hanauer talked a little bit about that today and basically said that they considered the possibility of going and opening up CenturyLink for the game. When you look at our history with CCL, where it's a competition that unless you're a serious soccer fan, like if you're a casual Sounder fan, a lot of them don't know anything about Champions League, and we're only bringing their midweek games. We get Wednesday against Santos or something like that, and we're bringing 19, 20,000. I feel like we could top that with 2 weeks' notice, but 4 days later, we're hosting the Timbers with 60,000 people. We're opening up the stadium. Yeah. It's the biggest game of the year, and I guess they just decided that. I mean, number one, Starfire is clearly an advantage. We are now, I think, 18-0 in the Open Cup at that stadium.
Yes, but have you played against other teams that are used to playing in small stadiums with artificial turf at Starfire? Because I know one who's used to playing on a very small field with kind of subpar artificial turf. No, I think it's going to be. I think it's probably going to be a really good atmosphere. It'll certainly be intense. Let's see whether I'll be there or not. But.
Let's talk about how we got to that. In addition to Ian's fantastic win last night. Let's talk about the, quote, more mundane games before we get to the craziness. So, Josh, tell us about Portland taking apart the champions on their home turf.
Oh, yeah. Kansas City is missing Beasler and Zusi, and they are on just a horrible run with injuries. They've got Faulhaber out. They've got... I can't even list the number of players that they have out, but they have a makeshift defense. Grudenbaum, I think, has been kind of suspect all year. There's some KC fans who are kind of
played.
Yeah, well, and when he has played, he hasn't been. I think he's played this is his third start this year or something.
Yeah.
Fourth start. Yeah, and apparently he hasn't looked real great. Because a lot of people were saying, you think Cronenberg's better? And people are like, well, I don't know which is worse, but neither of them are good. But Kansas City is just they're in a rough spot, and Portland is finally coming into their own and starting to really be able to control the ball and control the ball in the middle of the field and get it into attacking positions quickly enough that people like Gaston Fernandez can play the game that they want to play. So it's weird because I was mentioning to some people Portland's record against Kansas City in the last couple of years, a period in which Portland has been okay in stretches but not great, and Kansas City has been uniformly quite good, is pretty amazing. They've beaten them 4 times in a row now, but a lot of those were just lucky breaks for the Timbers and Kansas City not being able to break them down, or in this case, Kansas City just being injury ravaged and Portland just kind of coming into a good spell of form. But they ran at KC's backline really well, and the running off of the ball was really smart to open up a lot of space for folks like Zakawani and Fernandez to get in there. I will say Khalif Al Hassan he's I don't know if either of you guys have ever noticed him or watched him, but he will do an incredible run, and then the next time he gets the ball, he will run right into someone or like shank a shot. It's like everything he does good, he immediately counteracts by doing something just monumentally stupid. It's just good, bad, good, bad. It's so consistent. I'm amazed at his consistency of just doing something really stupid and then really smart.
And
but
then
all
once
three
you
of them,
average it all out, it ends up in a tie.
once you average it all out, he's kind of mediocre. But yeah, all of those guys, all three of them at the front, and Max are really they made a lot of space for each other, and it wound up working out really well against Casey's pretty inexperienced back line. So I think it was a good win for the Timbers, but it wasn't like they went in and spanked a full force Kansas City. It was more that they got in and were playing well against a team primarily comprised of the B side or backups for KC.
Cool.
What about Seattle? That was a bruising game. That took a while.
It was unlike any game that I've seen in the Open Cup for the Sounders. First of all, we almost never concede the first goal at Starfire. Only happened a couple of times. So, the game is exactly what you'd expect to start out. You're playing San Jose, who is a tall, physical, direct playing team on a small pitch of questionable turf. And, it's exactly what you expect. They're going to be physical, and Lenhart's going to throw elbows at guys with histories of concussions, and, you're going to get exactly what you expect to start the game. And then Lenhart hits an absolutely beautiful shot. He brings it off his chest, takes it on the half volley, and just sends this curling, beautiful ball into the net. I mean, it was stunning. It was absolutely beautiful, and there would have been more time for San Jose to celebrate if they didn't turn around and immediately just open their defense up and let us a minute and a half later go do the same thing at the other end of the field. And so it's the 26th minute and it's 1-1, and then we just play 70 minutes of incredibly ugly football. I mean, it's direct. We're hoofing balls over the top. And when I say we, I mean both teams. But the Sounders basically had no solid possession or passing, link play-wise. They would just get a good through ball and have an attack, or one or two good passes would get them in to take shots without actually having any pretty ball being played, And somehow we ended a game with 46 shots, and 2/3 of those were the Sounders. It was 31 shots to 15. I think we hit the woodwork in the first 93 or 4 times.
I saw 3 off the woodwork.
Yeah, I mean, another 2 in extra time. Chad Barrett was he was inches away from being the greatest sub of all time. He came on at 75 or 80, and in 90 seconds he had put a headed ball, a beautiful ball, was made a reaction save and tipped just over the bar, and then 30 seconds after that, he gets another great ball and just rockets it at this crazy angle straight off the woodwork. I mean, Chad Barrett came in and just made an immediate impact, but just couldn't get him to fall. And for the last 30 minutes between, from the 80th to the 120th, the Sounders were just snake bit. They completely controlled possession and just really dominated the game. Again, not pretty, but really just it was all in the Earthquakes' half, and it just wouldn't happen. And, it was getting more tense and more tense. Earthquakes got a couple of good chances, but nothing crazy. And, and then it went to penalties. And after the Sounders had been the one hitting the woodwork all night, they just drilled their penalties, and the Quakes didn't. They put up Alan Gordon's second, and he hit it off the woodwork, so the Sounders were up 2-1. And then the Sounders put their third one in, and Marcus Hahnemann saved the third PK from Earthquakes. And at that point, it's 3-1 going into the 4th round. It was over. We just had to drill one in, and Lamar Nagel put it in the corner. It was a crazy game. I don't have any problem. I don't feel like the Sounders got away with one. It's not like I really feel like they had more chances, but it very well could have gone the other way. I mean, any time it goes to PKs, that's a scary situation, man. But
I got to call out, what's his name, Dave Bingham, who is the goalkeeper for San Jose, who is not. I mean, I don't even know how many games he started this year. I think it's 3, 2.
Sure.
But backup goalkeeper put in an absolutely great performance. I mean,
he Ramondo'd us.
He blocked so many shots. There were long stretches of that game where he looked like the only person completely engaged with the game, but he was on it. He was in bullet time. It was good. So that's a good sign for San Jose.
Agree. Yeah.
Yes, he put out one of the best attacks in MLS history.
One more time, Ian?
So he didn't shut out one of the best attacks in MLS history. I'm just shouting out to Scott Goodwin for the Real Hawks. I have to keep bragging about that.
What about some crazy Open Cup games?
Jeez, man, we had a fun Open Cup night. I kept telling Jessica, I was like, I love this tournament. Like I'm reading her things like, oh man, there were 5 red cards in one game. Like, when does that happen? You know, and the tournament is just insane. It's so much fun. I love the one you're done. I love the passion that goes into it, especially from the minor league teams, because like this is it for them. You know, like this is Ian. Yes, we're very happy for you.
No, but that's the thing that, you know, it's a shame that by and large in Europe the all-league tournaments, with the exception of the FA Cup, don't get much love. You know, the King's Cup in Spain is kind of an afterthought for people. Not as big in Germany and France. Not as important in Italy. England is the one where people really get into the FA Cup and really love it because their league system there is so big and so well supported at all levels. But yeah, I get the magic of why that is such a special tournament and why it's unfortunate that the big 4 or 5 teams don't seem to treat it with the same importance that some of the smaller teams do, because it is fantastic to see a bunch of people who, like, that's their game of the season, and they're just going to absolutely fly at people who are making way more money than them and have way more experience. And
I mean, Wigan, right? That was that's the magic of that is a team. I mean, fuck DC United last year.
Yeah.
You know, that was your crowning achievement in a just season of shit. You still managed to earn
win as many trophies as New York and more than the Galaxy.
That's right. That's right. And on top of it, I mean, it's a major trophy. Like, it's one of the 4 ways that gets you into Champions League, and you have been anointed as the winner of a knockout round of 100 teams in the country. You know, that's amazing.
So here's the only thing for me. The tournament is great, and I loved it in May. And maybe it's just because I'm not living in North Carolina and not going to the Railhawks games, and then I would probably have a completely different outlook on this, but I'm not feeling this tournament as much as I was the last couple of years. If only because these last 2 rounds have been during the World Cup. And it's hard to split.
Oh, yeah. There is another tournament going on right now.
It's hard to split my applications that way. It's like, all right, well, I got to think about the U.S. and all these World Cup teams during the day. And then later that night, think about the Redhawks. And, the transition happens. It's just not as it's not as easy.
You don't spend your whole week looking forward to that Open Cup night because there's World Cup games every single day, multiple times a day.
Right. Whereas last year I spent, weeks looking ahead to the eventual Galaxy game and the Chivas games, because both of those games have happened now 3 years in a row, and those were really exciting to go to. And
well, there's good news. The World Cup's going to end. The Open Cup will go on.
So I mean, and I guess this might just be an isolated problem because I know a lot of people like the Open Cup no matter when it happens. So maybe it's just a me thing.
Are you saying that the quality of play in the Open Cup is lower than it is in the World Cup?
Yeah,
that's heresy.
And I mean, so the point that you're also kind of making without trying is that the quality is lower because of call-ups. Like, the Open Cup is already a tournament that teams have to schedule around their league play, and they have to schedule potentially around CCL, depending on when that all compacts in. And so now you even have teams that, like, yeah, they don't typically put out a full starting 11 at this stage, but some of them don't have the option to. You know, like,
right.
we couldn't play DeAndre Yedlin last night when we would have. He's a young kid. He plays 90 minutes every single competition, and he wasn't out there because of a call-up.
That's true, but a lot of them
couldn't come off the bench, and everything that happened with Kansas City against Portland, you know.
That's true, and that's why RSL lost to Atlanta, is because they had so many guys out. But as a result of the World Cup break, a lot of teams have been putting that featured. You guys lost me for a couple seconds, didn't you?
Yeah.
All right, I'll start that line of thought again. A lot of the minor league teams who would normally see, like we always saw the second, joked about seeing the second LA Galaxy, but we saw all of those guys. We saw Donovan, we saw Keane, we saw Sarvas, we saw Pinedo, we saw Bruce Arena. When the Cosmos beat New York, Petke put out pretty much a first-team lineup, with the exception of Cahill and Henry. RSL, though they didn't have a whole lot, when Atlanta beat them, they put out who they did have. They put out Atenella. They put out Plata, I think. I think he's
yeah.
So
he's good.
I think the quality of play has been better in these rounds of the Open Cup than they normally are. But obviously they're not up to MLS level.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine, because that's not why people like the Open Cup. But it's also that they're competing with the World Cup, and that's what has my affectation split. And that's, it's not going to happen every year. It's every 4 years.
And that's going to happen because we have a league in this country that does not run on the usual schedule. That's going to happen anytime there's a major tournament. When CONMEBOL comes up here, we will have that in 2016. Yeah. I mean, that's going to be a cluster. You are going to have Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Uruguay, like Colombia coming and playing in Seattle, in San Francisco, in LA, at the same time that MLS is going on. I mean, that's going to be insane.
And the Open Cup. The Open Cup.
And the Euros will be on in the midday.
Yeah, and the Euros will be on. And then, like, life, like maybe people have a job or some kind of other shit.
Loved ones, sure.
Loved ones. I mean, theoretically, I guess. But yeah, I mean that's that's an inevitable consequence of summer scheduling, and that's why we should move to a winter schedule. Just kidding.
Oh man!
I was about to stab you with this highlighter from the computer.
Let's talk about the winter schedule, and then we'll talk pro rel.
Yeah. Okay. And then no salary cap. And then 19th century rules for football, because fuck it, why not? So did anybody was anybody actively following Colorado or Atlanta, or did you just see the match thread and then click into it and go, what the fuck just happened in there?
That's pretty accurate.
Okay.
I went back and found the video and actually watched the alleged stomping. I don't know how alleged it is. Or let's change that to the alleged on purpose stomping.
Yeah. Because there was pretty clearly some stomping going on.
But I mean, I feel like you could make an argument that first we should talk about what we're talking about here. We're talking about Atlanta and Colorado, right?
Yes. Yeah. Eric Winaldi getting sent off, and 100 other people also getting sent off.
Yeah, I believe the final count on that was 5 red cards and 3 coaches sent off. Mm-hmm. I went back and watched the replay. It's insane. I've never seen anything like it in this sport. It kind of looked par for the course for hockey, but we have pretty different rules in soccer.
Well, you can't stomp people's face in hockey. That's even a bigger no-no because you have blades on your feet.
That's true. That's true. I guess I was more thinking of like the confrontations and potential punches that were thrown. In hockey, that's 2 minutes in the box. But it was pretty crazy. There was a lot of people losing their temper, and I see why Winaldo was thrown. there's no clear replay of it, but according to all of the announcers and his own players and pleading with the fourth official, Mastroeni basically maintains he never left his technical box, that while everybody else was on the field fighting and Ronaldo's out there screaming at people and all that, he maintains, and a lot of other people do, that he never actually left. So no one's really sure if the ref just got confused or just said, fuck it, I'm ejecting everybody, or how that went down. But it was a bloodbath.
Given that the ref took a solid minute or so to walk across the field and try and break up what was turning into a brawl, I wouldn't be surprised if he was just like, yeah, whatever, you, and I don't know, you two. Oh, you're all out of here. Like, it was like as clear an example of a referee completely losing control of a match as I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I guess if you're used to watching baseball brawls, all of that looks normal to you, but like that's really rare in soccer. That just does not happen like that. And it's normally because a referee is in there amongst players to stop them, and also that kind of behavior is just for assholes. So it just doesn't come up very often.
So it takes what, 5, 6, 7 minutes to sort it out. And when all is said and done, you have both head coaches ejected, an assistant head coach ejected, and you're playing 10-man Colorado against 8-man Atlanta. That's insane. And
Atlanta still held on and won.
Yeah,
they only gave up one goal in playing with 8 men. Like,
yeah, they went into that scrum 2-0 and lasted 25 minutes or so, only giving up a goal.
Yeah.
Good for Atlanta, I guess. I don't know. I hate them. I'm glad that.
You're glad
I really
they
do.
won. They're going through.
I know. But they're also shamed themselves. So.
Who are they going to end up playing? Chicago or something?
Yeah. Or is it Columbus? I can't remember.
Did Columbus move
on?
on?
The winner of Chicago Columbus tonight. They play tonight, don't they?
So wait, why do you hate that? That's an NASL team. Why do you hate? Why do you hate them?
Okay, so last year, we had a chance to win the spring title. The Railhawks did, against Atlanta. It was a home game. It was actually a really good experience. We ended up tying them, but Atlanta dove all over the goddamn place every single time. It was like Ronaldo was already coaching them, but that wasn't happening yet. I don't know. They played the game shamefully, and the game ended in a 1-1 tie, and a win would have given us a title. And then I moved to Minnesota and watched Atlanta play Minnesota in Minnesota 4 days later. In another game that had Atlanta lost, we would have won the title, but they won 3-0 against Minnesota, and it was sad first, and it was also the second straight game where they dove all over the place and conducted themselves in a terrible manner. And yeah.
So, do you think that this is just that team, or do you think there's something in the water and we can expect this from the MLS Atlanta franchise?
Oh, I imagine the MLS Atlanta franchise is going to be a lot different. They're also, the Atlanta supporters group is not liked among NASL circles.
Okay.
They in New York are known for scarf stealing and other things. So.
Yeah. I hear a lot about like how that used to go on all the time in USL days, and like sometimes people even talk about it very nostalgically, and it was like, just what? Why?
Yeah.
What?
So.
Okay, well, that's good to know. So maybe the fervor of the Atlanta soccer fan has been underestimated by the major media, because there was a lot of talk about like, oh, they won't get into soccer and they won't be really into it. First comes hooliganism, and then comes. Organic fandom? I don't know. I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah, I don't know how you grow from that. But
yeah.
Hopefully the fact is that the Atlanta soccer fans are just not major crossover into other sports, because it's really the other sports that have given Atlanta fans such bad names as being fair weather and not showing up for their teams. And I know I personally have some crossover, but there's a lot of guys that are, in my social circle with the Sounders that really soccer's it for them. They never grew up on football or baseball or anything else. Like this is the sport that's been chosen, and I'm sure that also comes from, kind of a self-selecting group that kind of was against sports maybe until they found soccer. A lot of hipsters and techies that kind of, were not really sports people until they found that soccer was different. So maybe the Atlanta soccer fan base is more passionate than we think, and it's, the other sports that are just failing.
Well, on that note, Dallas and Houston did not have a whole bunch of red cards, but was also a pretty good game. I watched the recap of that, and I just, one of the things that I was thinking watching Dallas and Houston play, Houston has very good support. They've been very successful. Dallas has been pretty hit or miss over the last couple of years, but it seems like they need a rivalry, and as soon as Houston moves over to the West, they're gonna have one. I think that's gonna help Dallas a lot as a franchise, and I'm actually excited for them about that, because you can tell those games mean a lot to both of those groups of supporters, and that's the kind of thing. Like think about all the people in Portland and Seattle and Vancouver if you didn't have Portland, Seattle, and Vancouver. You'd just be like, come watch soccer. It's like, why? Because it's great, just the whole, we're going to go play against the guys down the road it's just so important. I'm glad that the league is picking up on that with Orlando and Atlanta coming in around the same time, and NYCFC and Red Bulls being able to play off against each other, and I think it's going to be really good for the league to,
That's why they need to put a team in Carolina and not Miami, because Atlanta has a more natural rivalry with us than they do with Miami.
Is that okay? Yeah, I suppose Miami is kind of like Miami.
Yeah, Miami doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, they really don't.
They like it when their basketball team wins.
I guess.
So,
not to crazy go tangent, but has anybody heard anything new about the Miami Stadium situation? Because all I heard was it's real bad.
That Don Garber is telling Beckham, yeah, you got to settle that, or we're just gonna go somewhere else.
Okay. Yeah, because it sounded like it was bad, and then everything went radio silent. Actually, it wasn't radio silent. It was everybody was like, hey, the World Cup, who gives a shit about Miami? So I haven't heard anything about it recently.
Hey, speaking of the World Cup, who gives a shit about Miami?
Hey!
There's actually... I have a World Cup stadium thing to talk about.
Ooh.
That I might end up having... Okay, so basically, I'll just tell the story now. Basically, the hearing for the DC United Stadium is happening tomorrow.
Man, nobody's gonna be there, huh?
at 9 a.m.
Nobody's gonna be there.
To 5 p.m. They said they're going.
They're having it all day.
Yeah, do you remember that Orlando Stadium hearing that went all day and into the night? It's basically one of those types of deals.
Okay.
And so the notion is all of the DC United fans are going to go to that. They're actually going to show the U.S.-Germany game once it starts at noon DC time, like in a screen somewhere. I don't know how that's going to work.
Wait, at the courthouse?
Yes.
We're going to take down the American flag and put up a big screen TV right behind where the judge sits. That's awesome. That's a great image.
Yeah, I don't know what it.
Down in front, Your Honor.
I mean, it's just city councilors, so I don't think there are any honorable people. Or I'm sure there are honorable people. But
no, I think you had it right. Right.
So basically, had we beaten Portugal, had we held on for those 30 seconds, this game would not have mattered as much, and more DC United fans could go and support the DC United Stadium. And now that hasn't happened, they're going to go not do that, not support the stadium, and watch the game instead, and then it's going to get rejected, and then, Ian's going to be sad.
So where, I mean, this has been approved apparently multiple times, so how does it keep getting stuck in administrative quicksand? What's going on with it, and I mean, does it seem likely to happen? Does it seem like it's going to be just outright rejected or outright accepted, or is it going to just direct? Here's the email I got
from Unite DC Coalition. It says, tomorrow the DC City Council will hold its first public hearing on the DC United Stadium proposal. Blah, 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 blah. Submit written testimony at public hearing. Copies of written statements should be submitted to the Committee of the Whole, Council of the District of Columbia, blah, 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 blah. So I guess it's because they're going to be spending public money on the related infrastructure. Not even on the stadium, but on the related infrastructure, but it's tied into the stadium bit, and opponents are going to tie it even further to the stadium, and it's just going to be a big...
So this is a chance for Joe Q Public to come and yell about his tax dollars being spent on it.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, sounds riveting. I'm going to go watch U.S.-Germany. I'm not
I am
doing
too.
anything related to government at all.
Yeah, tomorrow might be my least 2 productive hours I'll ever put in at this job. So I want to make this point because there's a lot of talk about, you know, how the popularity of the sport is growing and how the World Cup this time around is an even bigger boost and the ratings are awesome and so forth and so on. And I just want to share my own personal anecdote. I work at a company who is pretty cool and pretty laid back, but not cool enough to be cool with me watching the World Cup at work. That they're not quite at that level. So I'm doing a lot of watch ESPN on my phone, and you know, like I'm getting it where I can, but it's not supported in any way. That changed today. We received an email from like the morale committee, the one that, you know, plans like ice cream socials and whatever, and they went to the top and got permission to take our largest conference room, which can basically hold the entire company. There's about 80 of us, 100 of us or so on a given day, and this conference room can hold that many people with a big giant projector screen and put the game on there tomorrow.
Wow.
They don't expect us to all go sit in there for 2 hours, but they've kind of said, like, hey, come in and check on the game, hang out for a little while, go do some work or whatever. And so to me, it's crazy because we're not in the quarters or the semis. Like, this is the final game of a group stage, and it's got enough notice that people that are not into soccer were like, hey, we should put this up for the employees. The only other thing that they've done in the 2.5 years I've been there is they did the same thing for the parade for the Seahawks when they won the Super Bowl, which everybody in the office cared about. And
yeah,
like, to have that on the same level to me, where they're deciding to put it out there for the employees is pretty cool.
I have a couple similar anecdotes.
I have a similar anecdote as well. Who goes first?
I have 2.
Pick one.
Well, I'll share both eventually, but it's Josh, you go ahead.
I was at a conference that had a lot of, well, it wasn't a conference, it was like a workshop, basically, that had a lot of military folks and computer nerds in it, and I don't think I'm allowed to say much more about that than that, but it was a lot of people who I was like, none of these people are going to care about soccer at all, and then the U.S.-Ghana game starts, and me and I realize a couple other people are like furtively watching our laptops, and I hear a guy who is I don't know what rank he is, but he is a military man, and he says to somebody, "Are you watching soccer?" And they're like, "Yeah." And this military man is like, "Shouldn't we be working?" or something like that. I couldn't hear, but it was across the room, and the guy says real loud, "It's fucking America." And he goes, "You're right." And then he goes and he puts it on a projector, and then we watched it. And I was like, this is really crazy. And everybody just stopped working and stopped doing whatever they were doing, and we watched the Connor game, which was very, very fun to watch. But yeah, because I remember I was talking to you guys. I was like, I'm not going to get to watch this game. It's like security nerds and military people. There's no way. And then suddenly it's on a projector, like 10 minutes into the game. It was great.
So luckily for me, I work a very transient job where I can write whenever I want to, except for very, very special circumstances. So I got to go to the Brits pub, the local big soccer bar, for the Ghana game, and it was awesome because normally they have like an outdoor grass area where there's like a big not a projection screen, but like a big LED screen. In front of this lawn bowling area where they usually hold lawn bowling tournaments, I guess. I don't even know what lawn bowling is, but that's what they do.
Lawn bowling? Wow.
Apparently. I don't... it's very. I mean, it's
Wait,
Brits
are you?
Pub.
You're in Minneapolis, right?
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. It's on top of. It's like on a roof, right? The lawn bowling place.
Yes.
I've been there. I played bowls there, sir.
Oh, you have bowled there?
I have bowled there. Bowling gets a lot more fun if you drink like 8 Pimm's cups. Just for the record, it's like way better. Lawn bowls, I mean, not bowling, bowls. Anyway, sorry.
So the unfortunate/fortunate thing was that it started raining and thunderstorming, and so they had to close off the outside, which meant they stopped letting people to the inside, which meant I couldn't meet up with my friend until halftime when a bunch of people left and a bunch of people more could come in. My friend was waiting in the rain and the storms outside in a line instead of watching a soccer game, so that was not fun. But what was fun was the second half against Ghana when we were all packed into this one room and there was hardly any standing area, and so that was fun. You know, typical bar watching experience. And then I watched the Portugal game in a movie theater, and that was fascinating because there's been like movie theater showings of these games all over the country, and so I decided to go to one, and I turned to my nerd friend, the guy who's like, is Lana Donovan a robot? That guy, the guy who thinks Lana Donovan's a robot.
Yeah.
And it's one of those big theaters. It can seat like 700 people, and I'm like, well, we should get in line. And he's like, is it really gonna fill up? I was like, he's like, it holds 700 people, and I'm like, yeah, maybe not, unless I'm severely underestimating the U.S. soccer fandom here in South Minneapolis, and I very much did. We got in line. We did get in line with about 100 people in, just so I knew I could sit in the back because I was going to stand up a lot, and I didn't want to irritate anybody. So, and it was great. It filled up. A lot of like 15 to 17-year-old crowd, which is always kind of confusing, and it was really hot. It was like the movie theater was trying to replicate the conditions in Manaus for some reason, and but that last second goal was a killer.
Yeah, that was my only consolation was that I fully expected that the U.S. would tie that game. So when it happened, I was like, well, I kind of that like I consoled myself by thinking I figured this was how it was. I figured this was what the score was going to be. I just didn't think that it was gonna end like that, because you're like, holy shit. Well, this is what I thought was gonna happen.
Right.
Yeah.
It still sucks.
I think we all kind of consoled ourselves that way. Like, if you had told me before the Ghana game, hey, when you go to face Germany, you're gonna have 4 points, I would have been like, fuck yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, to be 30 seconds from 6 points, going through already, potentially winning the group depending on how tomorrow went. I mean, I was fucking ready. I was like, oh man, we had all these pundits that were telling us we're not going to win the group. We're not going to make it out of the group. We're going to lose the group. We're not going to score a single goal. And here we are, 30 seconds away from being the first to qualify in a group of Portugal and Germany.
Yeah.
Fuck. So close.
Yeah. Though it is the fact that that game is depressing. The fact that like we're all thinking, I mean, that is how far the national program and the national team has come. That we're all going, we could have won that game, instead of being like, holy shit, we didn't lose that game. I mean, you know, it's an impressive feat, and
Hey, how you guys feeling about tomorrow? Where are we at? Let's be honest here. I want to hear actual, honest feelings.
I'm pretty sure that we'll lose, but I also suspect that Ghana and Portugal will tie and we'll go through, or Ghana will win by 1 goal and we'll only lose by 1 goal. I think we'll lose, but we'll go through. That's my gut.
I think we're gonna go up 3-0. And
now you're high.
I was high yesterday. I have not smoked today.
I just realized how high you are. Sorry.
I'm glad we're getting that out in the open, because I have a hard time judging whether or not Ian is high, and I never wanted to call him out and be like, Ian, are you high right now?
I have never been high on this podcast.
Ooh, he's taking it serious.
Yeah, that is wow. Okay.
At least to my knowledge. if I was, it was once.
It was like a residual high. You were like still high from something.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm sorry.
I used to
I'm
have
sorry.
this.
Wait. Tell. Okay, 3-0. The U.S. is up 3-0, and then what happens? There's a rift in the space-time continuum.
That's all I know. We're up 3-0 in the 18th minute, and then that's it. That's all I know. Like the Portugal game 12 years ago.
Yeah.
I did not know that you had that quality of stuff in Minnesota. I'm kind of impressed.
So
I didn't realize that you had that sort of botany going on.
the girl that I get it from, who I was kind of sort of with for a few weeks, she gets it from Colorado.
Okay.
Oh, that makes sense.
Hey, that's
going to lead us right back into snack chat.
Yeah.
What's been fascinating to me though, this World Cup is not like the insight, but just the notion that literally every mainstream media outlet is talking about it.
Yes.
Like
USA Today, giant headlines. I was in a hotel and I would see USA Today every day. Something which normally has no soccer news. Crazy.
My little brother listens to sports radio all the time, like the local sports radio, like AM 1500 or something, and usually it's crap, right? But they not only were they talking soccer, they were talking about the position of soccer in the United States sports spectrum, and they actually were they actually weren't talking completely and totally out of their ass. They go through the normal, well, why isn't it so popular? Like the reasons, like, well, it isn't our game, we didn't invent it, there's little room for advertising, blah 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 blah. And it's those kinds of conversations I feel like are happening everywhere, not just in sports media, but in conversations around the country as everyone's gotten into this World Cup, as we've seen, to an unprecedented level, which was sort of predicted by the like we would have predicted. We probably have predicted that this would be the most followed World Cup ever in American history.
We did predict that. Let's pat ourselves on the back a little bit.
Yeah, and
and one other thing that I want to say is that the difference of this World Cup and like the difference in the way that people experience this game. It's interesting to hear people say that one of the reasons for the lack of popularity of soccer in the United States is that it doesn't have opportunities for lots and lots of ads. Like, the fact that somebody says that and other people look at them straight-faced, like, I understand that that's a reason why advertisers and marketers may not like it, but for fans, like, that's just an absolutely mind-blowing statement to think that a fan is going, there's not enough ads in this. Like, I think I really need more ads. But another thing is that I think it is the difference of it, like, the Super Bowl happened in Seattle, right? It was the team from Seattle, and the game was not here. There was no outdoor viewing parties, right? There's massive outdoor viewing parties everywhere, and the demographics and the way that people experience it and the way that people are watching the game and talking about it is very different than what they do in other sports, and I think it's going to be good that there's going to be a kind of a re-reckoning of how we figure out who's what's popular and what's worthy, and and what, I mean, ultimately it just comes down to money for the national team and for MLS, but God, just thinking about the Nielsen ratings, they're looking at Nielsen boxes, which is great for people at home watching baseball. But you look at Grant Park in Chicago, and it's like, I mean, there's tens of thousands of people out there, and anybody who thinks that Nielsen actually is accounting for those people or the hundreds of people that are packing into most bars and most major metropolitan cities is giving Nielsen far, far too much credit. I mean, we're seeing huge Nielsen numbers, but there's no way that represents the number of people who are watching this and following this. And I think we're going to see a serious re-reckoning of this, of the place of that sport by the end of this World Cup, once everybody kind of has a chance to look back and look at data. I mean, I sound like such a fucking nerd, but we know that this is part of money and influence and the ability to construct a league that we're going to look back and go, wow, that's really different. Like, that's very, very different than the way that other sports are consumed and experienced and discussed and related to, and all of those are going to be good things. None of them are bad. None of them are bad for the sport, and I'm excited to see. I mean, of all the things in the World Cup, that's probably like the least exciting of them. But when the World Cup is all over, that's going to be great because there's going to be a re-reckoning of it.
Absolutely.
It's also. Oh, go ahead.
And it's the thing I've been looking forward to the most. I mean, it's of the people that we know. I mean, obviously you're talking about the Nielsen people. Of the people that we know, like 9 out of 10 people that I know on Reddit or whatever that are soccer fans went and saw that game at a bar, or at a viewing party or something. The Portugal game at least. And so, yeah, it's exactly that.
Yeah, and for me, it's also the fact that like it's not just so many people that are paying attention to it by choice, but it's the old models that are being forced to pay attention to it because of its popularity in like you said, Josh, online and in watch parties. So you have guys like the USA Today who never cover soccer that are being forced to cover it because it's so relevant. You have anecdotally, I don't listen to sports radio, but I've heard from multiple people here in Seattle. There's a couple of radio stations that kind of make their money on being old school sports guys, baseball, football, and actively making fun of soccer and calling it commie kickball and all that stuff. And those same guys are covering the World Cup and talking about how tomorrow's game is so important because they have to, because it's being forced on them because it's so relevant to their listeners, and they're being forced to move forward. We have old media that is just having to deal with the fact that this is the wave of the future. You talk about 15 to 17-year-olds being at a watch party at a movie theater. That's great. Those are the ones who are changing things. Those are the ones who
there were 4 of them 2 rows ahead of me who were all wearing Ronaldo jerseys, and they were punks.
Well,
but beyond that, and there is certainly an Olympics effect going on here, where a lot of these people, not necessarily most of them, maybe most of them, but I don't know, won't pay attention to soccer unless it's big events like the Champions League final or when the World Cup comes back in 4 years. And that's fine. That's not going to happen for everybody. As we know, from you, Pete, this is how you got into soccer 4 years ago, basically.
Absolutely.
And that's all is happening again on a much grander scale than it happened even 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of infrastructure. Okay, so like the Winter Olympics happen, and people are like, "Wow, curling's cool," and then the Winter Olympics is over, and curling is out of your life because there is no curling anywhere else. Like, we're not Canadians. It's not something that's like, on TSN all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I don't even. I wish Dennis was here. He could tell me whether curling's on TSN all the time. But
no, it is because I watch Canadian streams a lot.
Yeah, but so you watch Canadian streams of curling?
No, I watch Canadian streams.
How bored are you?
I watch Canadian streams of basketball and they advertise curling.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so I think you're right. A lot of people are gonna kind of fade away, but a lot of them are not because there's an infrastructure, and I think for people who are in cities that have MLS or NASL or USL teams, I don't know what percentage of them it is. We're going to be converted, but it's going to be some of them, and it's going to be something that sticks, and I think it's going to be a net huge change in the way that we discuss the game. I mean, even just the fact that people know how to talk about the game a little bit. Like, my mom asked me about a 4-2-3-1, and I was just like, you want to talk about formations? Like, yeah.
That's the point at which I tell my mom, no. Let's not have that conversation. You're going to get bored in like 10 seconds.
My future father-in-law has gone from being all Seahawks all the time in the short 2 weeks that the World Cup has been on. He texts me daily questions about like formations and how teams work and like, what's going on with this one particular team. He actually got confused and thought that today was the U.S. game and called in sick and sent me a text and was like, why the hell am I watching Iran instead of the U.S.? And he's asked me about going to a Sounders game when the World Cup is over. So he's 65, I mean, like, it's I feel like it might sound a little hyperbolic, but I really feel like tomorrow is one of the most important games in American soccer history. And it sucks that it's at 9 a.m. on the Pacific Coast on a fucking Thursday.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about you. I know my office just said, either come here and watch the game or come in at lunch. So that's
it's I mean they're going to they're playing for the right to play in the next biggest game in American soccer history, and then the one after that. I mean even so. The biggest
I say that tomorrow is the biggest one because the difference between meeting the narrative of not being able to make it out of the group of death and making it out of that group against Germany and Portugal and Ghana, I feel like that's the tipping point. Like, yes, the quarterfinals would be absolutely, or the round of 16 and the round of quarterfinals and so on would absolutely be huge. But for me, it's like the game tomorrow and then semifinals. Because we've been to the round of 16 and we've been to the quarters, you know, I see tomorrow as the biggest game until we play in a semi.
And it also really helps that it's against Germany for a lot of reasons.
Totally.
But, you know, that it's the Germans. Everybody knows the Germans are real good at soccer, and they're Germans. So, you know, there's all the weird cultural baggage of them trying to take over the world and shit. It's like a perfect maelstrom of attention and drama and history. I mean, it's all the things that soccer can be, and it's great because we get to finally have it all, you know, the same way that Dutch people feel when they go play the Germans or the French and the English or the Italians and the Spanish. I mean, it's great, you know. It's
talking about Dutch people. I am looking forward to Netherlands-Mexico.
That is going to be a great game. That's going to be a cracking game. I really want Mexico to beat the Netherlands.
So imagine a world where we tie with Germany tomorrow. I guess for people who are listening, this will be later today, or earlier today. For some of you, it's going out, but I don't expect you in your World Cup excitement, nervous, frayed nerves. I know my nerves are going to be frayed. They were for the Portugal game.
You know what you need to do, Ian? You just need more clickbaity names for these podcasts, like 10 things you have to listen to before the U.S.-Germany game.
Yeah, if I do that, I'm going to have to kill myself.
Ian makes 7 pizza rolls. You'll never believe what happens next.
Fuck, I was going. Oh yeah.
We derail you so much.
We kind of do.
Imagine a world where, so the Mexico and Costa Rica get through their round of 16 games, which isn't completely and totally unlikely, because Costa Rica is playing Greece.
Yeah, I think Costa Rica wins that game.
I think Costa Rica wins that game as well.
So Costa Rica and Mexico play, and then we somehow beat the Belgians, and then somehow beat Argentina, who have looked vulnerable, by the way.
Yeah.
I feel better off against Belgium than I do against
I feel a lot better about playing.
Okay. Here's the better scenario. We beat Switzerland, who had, in the previous round, beaten Argentina.
That is the best scenario. I would agree with you that's...
So we beat those guys and get to the semis and play the winner of Mexico-Costa Rica.
Wow.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, that would be...
Can we talk about the fact that we're talking about 3 CONCACAF teams right now? So we have Costa Rica won their group.
The group of champions.
Literally, just mind-blowingly, So, I mean, the U.S. group of death. The U.S. group of death. But like, I don't know which group of death. Like, if you could take those 2 groups of death and make them fight each other, which one's better? That's such a toss-up.
I mean,
before the World Cup, I would have said our 4th place team's better than their 4th place team.
You probably would have been wrong, because at the time their 4th place team was Costa Rica.
So we have Costa Rica winning the group. We have Mexico tying Brazil for the group and only losing on tiebreaker. You know, and now we have the potential tomorrow to do the same, to either, you know, tie Germany and lose on tiebreakers, or potentially win the game, or lose by not a lot. We've got 3 CONCACAF teams real likely to go on to the next round. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. I don't think it's ever happened before.
Hey, did you guys see...
It was very close to happening in 2002 when Costa Rica and Turkey tied for 2nd place in Group A. But Turkey ended up going through on something weird.
Did you guys see the interview with Javier Hernandez where he was talking about CONCACAF and he was saying like, look at these teams, like nobody gave Costa Rica a chance, and because the reporter was basically saying like, well, you guys had a hard time in qualification. He's like, yeah, because CONCACAF is really good. Like, look at how the U.S. is doing. Look at how Costa Rica is doing. Like, everybody thinks we just stroll through. Like, it's a really tough confederation. It's not easy. And people who minimize it don't know anything about how good these teams are. And I was like, that's a good point. Yeah, like there are a lot of really good teams in this conference. They also sucked in qualifying, but it wasn't like nobody was just rolling over and being like, oh, it's Mexico. I guess we just hope we don't lose 3-0. It's very difficult. So I was really happy to see him saying that. As
the
somebody
thing that's really hard about CONCACAF is you have to go play your away games in Tegucigalpa and San Pedro Sula and Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Those really steamy Central American cities that really suck
and Columbus.
ass.
Terrible.
Jesus.
Listen,
Those people are animals.
I actually have to get going pretty.
I was a little disappointed in Honduras for really. They played Switzerland in Manaus today and lost to Switzerland, who. I don't know. Switzerland's up in the mountains, I guess, and I can't imagine they have too many steamy days up there. But whatever.
I gotta get going, guys. But I want to bring up one more World Cup point before I go. The lack of vuvuzelas this time has really made me jealous of the fans that have songs that they get to sing rather than just chanting USA or I believe that we will win.
Yeah.
And not in the style of, but in the understanding and same relevancy, I want a song like RSL's. It doesn't have to be that style. It doesn't have to be written by that guy. I want a song that you can hear echoing around the stadium that gets the U.S. team and the American Outlaws pumped up. We need something more than what we're doing right now.
We'll figure it out.
We might figure it out. When you look at some of the clubs,
all those South American countries are doing is just the Vamos chant.
No,
there are songs.
Yeah, there are like.
I know they're okay. Argentina, they broke out into like a 4-minute song today, and that was really cool. But like a lot of like Colombia and Chile, they sing the Vamos chant like 10 times a game.
Yeah.
I've heard at least 6 to 8 teams. South American or not, whether we hear it from the Europeans. I want a fucking song. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It'll come with time.
It'll come with time. I think we need to get the club teams to come up with a slightly more varied songbook, because even the club teams that have a big songbook, they go back to the well a lot, a lot, like to the point where sometimes I'm like, really, we did this like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it also.
I want a professional songwriter. The reason that RSL's song works so well is because it's written by a musical professional who set out to write a catchy, short, easy to understand song, and it really succeeded. And I know they pumped that in, but there are people actually singing it too. And I would love to have someone make that happen.
Yeah. Argentina in particular has always, when I lived down there, like the soccer chants are like 5 verses, and everybody knows. I mean, it's a cultural thing, and the thing is, once you get somebody into the habit of doing something other than chanting like the 2-syllable name of the team or like of the things that all of our respective clubs and the national team support all do. Once you get people out of that mindset just a little bit, like it's really intoxicating and it's really fun. I think it just needs to be somebody. You're right. You just need to get somebody to write one, and then the floodgates will open. But
totally.
Yeah.
By the way, I do have a happy ending to the guy who thought Landon Donovan was a robot. After the game, he turned to me and said, "You know what? I can understand why people really love soccer." So I was like,
that's great.
Yeah.
I saw the Mexico in Mexico Croatia. The puto chant was like so loud. I mean, so loud. And you heard the little controversy about.
Well, FIFA's okay with it, so
yeah. FIFA was going to censure them, and then realized that it's apparently a word of many, many values and meanings and all.
See, when I first learned that word playing on an Urban Stars soccer team when I was 13 years old, I did not think it meant what they say it means.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know. Mexican slang and I are not well acquainted, but
yeah. On that awkward note, I'm gonna get out of here.
Yeah, I think we should all get out of here.
You want to just call it?
Let's call it. This has been a very tangent-free one. This should actually.
I felt good. Should we make some bold predictions? Because we do have actually.
I already said
games happening.
We're
this
going
weekend.
up 3-0 by the 18th minute tomorrow.
That is okay.
That's really bold.
That is bold.
That is really, really bold. Okay, I'm going to go U.S. only loses by 1 but still goes through. That's not actually that bold. I'm going to go with... God, looking at these games, I can't even... Man, bully. Well, I don't know when we're doing the next pod, but I'm going to go Mexico... What?
It's next week. It better be.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know if when is Mexico-Netherlands is Saturday?
Yeah, that'll happen between now and then.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Mexico 3, Holland 1.
Ooh, that is bold. That is bold.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna wrap it up by making it's a bold prediction, but it's one that I believe in. I'm gonna say U.S. 2, Germany 1.
Wow.
Do you believe? You believe that? You believe that, Lee?
Or worst case scenario, we give up another late 10-minute goal and we draw and go through.
I wouldn't even care if we drew. That's fine.
I don't give a shit either. But I feel like this is a winnable game. I feel like they are not unbeatable. I mean, goddamn Ghana. You know, if Ghana can pull a draw with them, we can beat them on a good day.
Ghana is good.
Yeah,
That's
so
kind of
are
what
we.
people-
We beat Ghana. Fuck those guys.
People forgot that Ghana was really good for some reason.
I think they all went, well, the U.S. beat them, they must suck now.
Totally.
And then suddenly they were like, oh, no, wait, they're actually really, really good.
No, it's the opposite. If we can beat Ghana and Ghana can draw Germany, we can beat Germany. 2-1, guys. I'm calling it.
Transitive properties. Let's do it.
That's right.
All right. And on that note,
we're done.
Goodbye. This should be an easy edit, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I'll just have to take out some.
That's what happens when we take a little while off. We come in and we've got a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.